miniature, propulsive omnibus cluster bomb of painfully riotous daymares, all dripping with the blue and orange goo of dream logic. A series of loosely connected emotional parables about the stories within tales that crawled out of the deepest caverns of your unconscious mind and became lovingly animated in breath-slapping stop motion. In other words, it is the truth.
Open your eyes and listen carefully. There are ears who see too much. Open your ears and watch this man post missing person flyers around town with pictures of himself on them. Follow him deep in the woods, as he crawls into a hole in the ground. What is he thinking? Use your ears and see the memory that caused this. Dustin Oakes stares into his father, only in attempt to understand him. Did he love him, or was he just distant? But with his ever-present alcoholic silences, he leaves himself vulnerable to be touched. He surrenders his neglect and allows Dustin to finally feel his truth, that every father is a mother to the tunnel inside us, leading them away. He travels deeper into his father's crimson corridors, slightly frightened by the embrace of fluorescent light bulbs, slowly coming to the realization of what he's seeing. All of these moments of anger, of passion, of danger, his father felt nearly infinite in number, quietly trapped behind the same doors of red that he locks with the poisons of his choices. He walks until dragged by a dentist to discuss the roots of his problems. She peers into the abyss of his being and is surprised by the eye she fell for. Maintaining love can be hard. You can lose sight of who you are, lying to stabilize your self-worth, only able to hear the thoughts of who you once were. She tricks Dustin into falling in love, but adult relationships force you within. While in the darkness of finding himself, he stumbles across a stone that hides the savior of mankind, the 27th letter of the alphabet. And now, a poem. I believe this letter will lead to new words. Words for things we heretofore had no way of expressing, which could lead to new ideas, new emotions. Perhaps man will develop a new organ, a new lobe of the brain capable of perceiving a new magnitude of reality, one that contains a new state of grace, and at the very least, there'll be new foods, or at minimum, new meats. At the height of his dissertation of this new letter, Dustin is devoured and subjected to a level of pain indescribable to the human experience. Suffering that shatters consciousness. Anguish that makes the murder of millions look like a children's party magician. A magician that discovers a new meat. Non-sentient and nobler than beast. Made from ether and willingly takes on their pain so the world felt no need to slaughter them like beef. Understanding this martyrous oblige from the new meat, Dustin experiences a form of recognition, intense and cathartic in nature. Someone from the empty world finally can see him, finally can feel him. It was proof that someone cared. This surreal and toxic relationship causes him to repeatedly harm himself, only for the validation of seeing the meat's reaction, while at the same time blinding himself to what's really going on.
that every sensitive touch of torment he brings on himself, it develops his meat in size and consciousness. And now, another poem. One day he looked up and realized he couldn't tell himself apart. Lost track which me he was, both haunted by the same queasy thought. What if I'm really him, and he's really me? What if I'm not the man? What if I'm the meat? Dustin desperately looks for himself, without first knowing the answer to the question, what separates man from his meat? Is it the pain we develop throughout our lives, or this pit of misery that stains the soul once it's gone? The phantom left behind once the anguish is exorcised, sometimes so strong you can see it. Dustin learns more about the depths of his depressive abyss as he shoves in numbing perversions to soothe his aches. But once his void has had its fill, it leaves him for a better life, to gorge on the happy and healthy. Dustin had to come to terms with the fact that both his manifestations of pain had left him, and how they were able to move on and find happiness, while he sits still in his pit of filth, trapped by the thoughts of comfort his pain had given him. Dustin finally decides to take charge of his happiness and not let it be the responsibilities of others. And after intense searching, he is reunited with his void and all its captives. They screamed and pleaded to be let out into the empty world, but Dustin wouldn't let them. He was finally free of being trapped by negative energy and decided to live his life to the fullest, so that their misery wouldn't be in his vein. While wailing around in the darkness, shouting into the endless chasm, someone stumbled upon the very thing that would be the savior of their humanity, the 28th letter of the alphabet. No one knew it existed, but there it was. It gave them the knowledge and skill to create and sustain a stronger community, an opportunity at a better life. The avoidant void containing the secret truths of the universe creates itself infinitely, only trapped by those trying to capture it, trapping themselves from seeing the sound their souls ache. Okay, so this is hands down my favorite episode from season 2. This felt theatrical, painterly in its composition, poetic in its structure, and intensely surreal as always. This feels like art. The incredibly layered narrative of this episode was difficult to understand, but I believe it's about pain. The mental anguish of parental neglect, and how that forces children inside themselves and creates unhealthy attachments to the emotions that reside within that darkness. Sadness, anger, fear, pain. And that need for validation from experiencing those emotions can lead people into self-destructive behaviors and relationships. I thought the show did a brilliant job at conveying that concept with the meat torture montage. That very simple and surreal trick of having the meat react every time he hurts himself to demonstrate the double-edged blade of toxicity in abusive relationships. The truth of how someone often destroys themselves in an attempt to hurt someone else, which was then pushed to its natural extreme by having the victim turn into the abuser himself, which also poses the concept of doppelgangers and you being your own worst enemy when it comes to the pain that we deal with throughout our lives. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm amazed at the growth of my channel thanks to your support. When I made my first episode, I only had 3 subscribers and 2 of them were family members, so as a small channel, it means the world to be almost at 400. I have different content to bring to this channel as it grows to see where it leads. So thank you for sticking by me during this transition. And until next time, I've been your host, Cinema Ghost.